Music is notes, beautiful notes and sounds put together in such a way that we get pleasure out of listening to them. That's all there is to it. And when we ask, what does it mean? What does this piece of music mean? Then we're asking a very hard question. And that's the question we're going to try to answer today.
Throughout history, countless composers have crafted magnificent symphonies and timeless melodies, shaping the way we perceive and experience music. However, many of these composers' personal lives and identities have remained hidden behind a veil of secrecy. Today, I aim to shed light on the hidden lives of these composers and answer the question we've all been wondering: where are all the queer classical period composers? Now, I know, classical music isn't everyone's favorite, but as a person who identifies as queer and has been doing classical music for almost 9 years, I know my fair share about this stuff. Classical music is what I'm really passionate about, and if I didn't have it, I think I would lose a sense of identity. But this video isn't about me, so let's get back to these composers. With my queer identity and my passion for music, I ask myself, do other people know if queer composers exist? Music has long been a refuge for those who dared to challenge societal norms, providing a platform for self-expression and freedom. When studying music, the time period the music was created is always relevant. It adds context to the overarching meaning and environment that allowed the creation of the piece. One can argue that identity adds the same context to creation of compositions that we have all come to know and love, and that music majors know as standard repertoire. And one could ask, why is a composer's queer identity so important? And if it was so important, why didn't these composers share their identities? This is a complex subject that reflects the societal norms at the time. Many composers such as Ethel Smythe and Samuel Barber did share their queer identity, and they were discarded from the classical music profession. Being a composer was not just about making revolutionary music. It was also about being advertisable for orchestras and the public at the time. Most of these composers conditioned themselves to be as private as possible to protect themselves. The discovery of their identity was found in love letters and diaries after their deaths. Many male composers conformed to the nuclear family. They married a woman and had kids, and some would later in life find a same-sex partner, but they lived inauthentically to protect their legacy. Many of these compositions live in plain sight, and I guarantee you've heard some of these pieces that you had no idea were by queer composers. Tchaikovsky. He was one of the most renowned Romantic period composers and one of my favorites. Not only did he write some of the most infamous symphony works of all time, he wrote pieces such as Romeo and Juliet and the Nutcracker, which includes the Sugar Plum Fairies. He was gay, but he was certainly not out to the public. But are we surprised that a man who wrote the Sugar Plum Fairies is a gay man? He lived in Russia during the 19th century, and his country did not accept the fact that he was gay, and has been shunning that declaration. The Russian culture minister stated in a newspaper that Tchaikovsky was indeed not gay, and there is no evidence to prove so. And the evidence we have? He wrote letters to other men expressing his sexual attraction towards other men, and they were hidden from the world. Camille Saint-Saëns was a French composer during the Romantic period, with his most famous and recognizable composition being Carnival of Animals, featuring the swan. He realized how much marrying would bolster his reputation, and understandably, he showed little outward sign of wanting to marry. But he did try to live a normal life for many years, and at age 40, he married a woman and had 2 infant sons. We aren't quite sure how Saint-Saëns identified, but it's believed by historians that he was either gay or bisexual, but he was certainly not out to the public. Leonard Bernstein, most well known as his role as music director of the New York Philharmonic in 1958 to 1969, and his most famous works of West Side Story and his opera Candide. Leonard Bernstein is one of the most famous and recognizable composers of all time, and his impact on the music world has been revolutionary. And let the secrets be told, and the whole point of this video essay, he was a closeted gay man. For the most part. He had a wife and 3 children, but he was sexually attracted to men. And he married a woman to protect his legacy. But after the death of his wife, he had many lovers, and he even went on to go and marry a fan. I can honestly do a whole video essay about Leonard Bernstein, but let's move on to the next person. Handel was a Baroque composer most well known for his Hallelujah from Messiah HWV 56. We aren't quite sure if he was straight or gay, but we knew that he spent years in Italian courts and English country estates where homosexuality was known to be prominent, even if the word didn't exist yet. He left no solid indication that he ever had a love affair of any kind, gay or straight. Some sources claim that there's a story that King George II himself asked him flat out about his love of women, to which Handel replied evasively that he had no time for anything but music. Okay, Handel, whatever you say. Now I know what you might be thinking. Why are you just talking about white, gay men? And the truth is, while researching this topic, I could not find a lot of evidence of women or even lesbians during this time period. But I did manage to find one person. Ethel Smythe was a lesbian female composer during the women's suffrage age. Her most notable works were her Mass in D and her opera The Wreckers, while also composing dozens of other pieces throughout her life. Smythe tended to be marginalized as a woman composer, as though her music could not be accepted as mainstream. Yet, when she produced more delicate compositions, they were criticized for not measuring up to the standards of her male competitors. Nevertheless, she was granted a damehood and was the first female composer to be honored. When she joined the women's suffrage movement in 1911, she quit composing, but she found a way to contribute her craft with a trio of choral works called Song of Sunrise. The first 2 pieces in the larger work, Laggard Down and 1910, are not at all known. The third piece, The March of the Women, would ultimately become the true anthem of the suffrage movement. As this is a new composer to me, I look forward to doing more research on her, and maybe in the future I'll do a video essay on it. So why so little representation for the lesbians? Well, the truth is, if you weren't a straight white male, you didn't get documented. So women at this time didn't have documentation and were discriminated, especially lesbians. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. As always, I encourage everyone to do their own research, and keep an open mind next time you listen to classical music, because you never know who's behind the music.